I've been trying to figure out what's wrong with the transmission on my car because it's still making this weird noise when you're on overrun. So going down a hill, take your foot off the accelerator, makes that noise. So just to recap, we've swapped out the gearbox. Doesn't seem to be that. I visually inspected the clutch at the time. I can't see anything wrong with it. And it certainly works really well and really smooth. If I rotate the prop shaft with the car in neutral, there is quite a bit of rotation, a sort of slop there. And I thought it was the diff, but I'll cut in a bit of video here that shows you it's not the diff. Okay, so I've taken the exhaust system off the heat shields and now I'm just checking the diff movement. Actually, as it turns out, there is absolutely no slack in the diff. It's not the diff at all. It's the universal joints, inboard universal joints on the drive shafts, where there's a slight bit of movement and then there's a slight bit of movement on the outboard ones, but the bigger movement is on the inboard ones. So if you watch the clip there, which is clipped onto the outer one, clipped onto the drive shaft, obviously this is on the diff side of the universal joint, these bolts. If I twist, you can see they move. There's very slight movement on the clip, and it's exactly the same the other side. So now I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about this. I'm running out of ideas. That's the trouble. I don't know what else to do. I've looked at the universal joints on the prop shaft. There's nothing wrong with those. The centre bearing on the prop shaft is new. I can't see what's wrong. Now, the only thing I can think that's making the noise more prevalent, maybe the problem has always been there, but of course some of the differences now are that I've installed hard bushes on the rear of the car. I've installed almost solid bushes to mount the rear of the gearbox, and then we've removed the dual mass flywheel, and I just have the single mass lightweight flywheel, which I guess with the dual mass it might have dampened some of the sort of chatter out of the transmission. Now the other thing is that I have listened to some videos, and I'm going to do this again, of other 116 cars, including some video I've got of the 4040 cars from inside with some audio, and you can hear it a bit on those cars, but it's not as loud as it is on mine. I decided I'm not going to swap out the diff. It just seems pointless because the diff looks perfect. You turn it and the drive shaft couplings turn immediately. There is this slack in the universal joints in the drive shafts. They're new drive shafts. They weren't, they came from I don't know, some place that sells OEM or replacement pattern parts. So I hope they're good quality. They seem okay other than that. And maybe they're supposed to have a bit of slack. I can't see what I've done wrong in the installation of them that may have caused a problem. I used new bolts and torqued it all up correctly. I don't know what can be wrong. So all those things given, I've decided that I'm just going to take the car to have the roll cage installed and get the guys at 4040 to check the car over to see if I've done anything wrong. I'm going to have to test the car and drive it ever longer distances over the coming couple of weeks before I take it down to them, because obviously I don't want to be going down to Farnborough and then find the flipping thing just gives up on me on a motorway somewhere. So I'm going to have to make sure it's reliable. The other thing, which I'll show you underneath in a minute, is I had this concern over the pre and post catalytic converter oxygen sensors or lambda sensors, and I had labelled up the plugs but judging by the result I'm getting from the OBD to port scan, my labelling is wrong. It's the wrong way round. And now I've actually decided, I was still uncertain about the whole thing, so I paid the $30 for 24 hours of access to BMW TIS. I've checked on there. I've made a couple of mistakes. The bracket, where I've put the bracket that holds the cable that goes to the lambda sensor, the pre-cat lambda sensor, I've got it on the wrong bell housing bolt. It should be one further round. So I know it's a really minor thing, and the cable isn't touching the exhaust, but I'm going to correct it because I want it to be right. So I'm going to do that next. I am slightly concerned. It does seem to be running really rich. If you remember, I'm running the 1600 1.6 litre MAF element thing, and I think I remember them telling me that if it does run very rich, you might have to swap it back for the 2 litre one. But I think as long as it's not really bad, I think that's another one where I'm probably just going to struggle and get it down to Rob, down at 4040. I'll take the 2 litre MAF with me. I've still got it, and I'll get him to decide whether I should or should not be running the 1.6 MAF. Because remember, I've got a 2 litre throttle body and 2 litre airbox. Other than that, I've still got a few jobs. I mean, I haven't installed the electric cutout. I've figured out what I'm going to do about that. I've been trying to figure out how to sight the fire extinguisher pull on the outside of the car, and I'm struggling a bit because it's got a really long fixed piece that goes behind the nut that you screw up. There's a long sort of aluminium tube piece, and I'm struggling to find clearance under the bonnet. Normally they put them up by the windscreen wiper, and I was going to do the same. I mean, I don't want to do anything different. I'll probably do the same thing. It's just that I'm struggling a bit to figure out how to sight that, and again, I might bottle out of that one and get Rob to advise me on that as well. So we've got the fire extinguisher to do, the battery cutout. I have got to rewire it to accommodate the new lightweight battery, but I'm not going to do that until the roll cage is in. I thought I had a thermostat issue. I've sorted that out. It seems to take a long time to come up to temperature, but it does come up to temperature and then the thermostat does open. So that all looks fine. Basically, I'm finished. I'm not quite sure what else I can do. I mean, there's obviously loads of things I can do. I could start thinning the wiring and all that stuff, but I'm not going to get involved in that at the moment until the car's had the roll cage installed. I've got to route the fire extinguisher pipes through the bulkhead and around the engine bay. Rob said he'd show me how to do that actually, so I might well wait for that one. Other than that, the car drives well. The brakes are astounding. These carbon Lorraine brakes, they're a bit pricey, quite honestly, compared to the Mintex ones. But I have to say, crikey, they've got some stopping power. I think you could stand the car on end. They're really very powerful. So that's it. That's where we're up to.